So let's go ahead and get started. Region 10 Education Service Center and Partners Resource Network are happy to welcome you today to our family webinar for the month of April. Today's topic is recreation for students with disabilities. We have Julia Chalker with us today to present. Julia is a transition coordinator with Prosper ISD, and at this time, I'm going to turn things over to her. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my slides. Can y'all see those?
Not yet.
No, they were up a second ago, but I don't see them now.
What about now?
Now I see them.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me today. As she said, I am a transition coordinator in Prosper ISD, but I'm also a family member. I have a baby brother with autism who's now 56 years old. And so I kind of look at leisure in a couple of ways. And being over a transition program, I really see how we need to make rec and leisure a priority when we're planning for the future. So let's just start by talking about what do you like to do for recreation, leisure, and fitness? And here are some pictures that kind of show a little bit about me. I have an Etsy store where I make designs out of vintage jewelry. I love making those royal icing cookies, volunteering and working with animals. I love to play games and cards with my husband and my family. For fitness, I'm addicted to Pilates, and I love to garden. So those are just a few things about recreation and leisure and fitness for myself. So think a minute about what does participation in these kinds of activities do for you? So for me, I get to, show my creativity. I get to socialize and spend quality time with loved ones. I get to make my body stronger and healthier and do things that just bring me enjoyment, but also serve others, like the volunteering with animals, for example. So those are what those activities do for me. But by definition, generally, when we're talking about recreation and leisure, we're talking about things that we choose to do. They're freely chosen, and we do them because they're enjoyable in general. Working out may not always be enjoyable, but generally, we're not going to keep doing something that's not enjoyable. But when we're talking about those with special needs, it's a lot harder because sometimes they may only be interested in doing one thing or certain things, and they may not want to try new activities. And we all know you don't know if something is enjoyable until you try it. So we have to be creative and think of incentives and different ways to get them to explore new activities and to try new things. So the research shows us that individuals with disabilities, unfortunately, they have a higher prevalence of obesity compared to those without disabilities. They are more likely to be physically inactive, which of course can contribute to weight gain and health problems. So, and it's kind of a vicious cycle because with obesity and inactivity comes chronic diseases. And our big thing is we always want to work towards greater independence, and obesity and inactivity can lead to reduced independence. They may have reduced function, things that they can do, they might have pain, and all of these things can result in a decreased quality of life. And quality of life is what we are all striving to get. So I'm a transition person, so I always think of things in terms of how does that relate to transition. So one of the things we look at in planning for adult life is integration into the community. That's a big component, right? And planning for transition includes looking at activities that will help somebody to have a personally satisfying life and active in the community. And the biggest thing is planning your day for when you leave us to have meaningful activities. I know that the biggest nightmare for someone in transition, and hopefully for families and parents, is to think of our students graduating to the couch. We want their life to be full of meaningful activities. This is an example that I show parents when we do planning for the future. So this might be an example, and it might be hard to zoom in, but it's someone's schedule before they graduate. This happens to be an example of a student that's in 18 plus or transition services, but you can see that Monday through Friday from 8 to 2 or so, and for this particular student, their day is pretty full. Everything from, their morning meeting and working on hygiene and cooking, and they're volunteering in the community. Some of the students may be at job sites. They're working on household management. They're working on recreation skills and things like that. So their week's pretty full. And then at night, they may have, this child has speech therapy. They are involved in Star Catchers, which is performing arts. They have Miracle League on Saturday and church on Sunday. So a pretty good, complete schedule full of meaningful activities. But when they graduate, you're starting from scratch with a blank slate that we as families need to fill with meaningful activities. And that's one reason why having being able to try and explore different recreation and leisure activities is really important to do from an early age. So here is that adult's schedule with meaningful activities plugged in. And so when they're an adult, after they leave transition, they may go to a individualized skills and socialization program 3 days a week. They might be going to work part-time. We've also got some other things represented there, volunteering at Meals on Wheels and volunteering at an animal shelter. The family plans for them to work on household management at certain times and cooking. But then those rec and leisure activities that have been inserted, those meaningful activities, include going to the gym Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Tuesday and Thursday, and having Miracle League on Saturday, helping volunteer at bingo, Star Catchers, the performing arts, and church still. So the parent had to research and find what would be a good fit and fill those activities in with meaningful activities. So back to rec and leisure. Typically, students with intellectual and developmental disabilities participate less in leisure activities, and they are more likely to do passive solitary activities by themselves. And a lot of times they need the support of parents or other adults to participate in leisure activities. Some of the barriers that make it difficult sometimes is they have a lack of exposure to activities. There may be limited opportunities or not accessible environments. It takes time to not only participate in these activities, but to research them and to get there. They have to have transportation. A lot of times students or our family members may not have the skills to participate. And then we all know that a lot of times if a child needs support, it's the parent that ends up providing it, especially if you're not receiving any waiver services already. So those are some of the barriers, but there's lots of benefits when you do participate in rec and leisure. We all want balance and quality of life. It's an awesome way to work on social skills and emotional regulation. It gives someone, increased self-confidence and autonomy and motivation. So that's psychological benefits. It definitely can help someone improve their strength and endurance. And then they're going to learn new skills through whatever they do for rec and leisure. There's all different types of activities that we'll be talking about today. So we'll talk a little bit about more of these, but there's a whole range. You could start with full inclusion with doing rec and leisure with everyone else, all the way down to, one-on-one instruction or segregated activities. And there's competitive activities, there's creative ones, there's all kinds of different activities that you can look into. So full inclusion, if there's a chance that your son or daughter can participate in a regular activity for anyone else, like, for example, a regular baseball team, by all means, we want to do full inclusion. But what you need to consider is, what is the goal of the experience for you? Is it for your child to have that social exposure, social experience, or is it for them to actually learn the skill? And if you do some type of full inclusion activity, make sure that you communicate beforehand with the folks that are coaching or teaching or facilitating the activity about what your child's needs are. And that does take advanced planning and just being very open and upfront about what your child's needs are, because that is going to set you up for greater chances for success. And if you can, look into what natural supports may be available, which might mean there's other participants that are able to support your child in a full inclusive activity. You can find different activities for inclusion through like a Parks and Rec department. It might be just regular lessons or karate or groups. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are a great way to look at some inclusive opportunities. The Civil Air Patrol, I don't know a lot about that, but I've heard that that is a really good inclusion opportunity. And then I have a lot of experience with seeing some of our family members participate in youth groups at a place of worship. They're very good with inclusion opportunities. And I have seen students grow so much through participation in those groups. Okay, so just keep in mind, though, if you do an inclusive activity, that if the right support is not there in an integrated setting, a lot of times the individual with the disability is not going to experience it's going to experience little or no social interaction with those around them. So again, we need to look at what are the goals that we are looking for. And if you do provide a support person, some hints about inclusive recreation is ensuring that that person engages with everyone, kind of as a connecting link. So you shouldn't be able to look and see that person is here to support that child. It's kind of like a paraprofessional in a class. Should look like they are there to help everyone. Also, modeling interactions for the person and the other adults is important, like in terms of communication, appropriate behavior, only offering help when needed. We all know that it's really easy to want to jump in and help, but too much support is going to not encourage other people to get involved, and it creates, I think, learned helplessness. And then again, along those lines, backing off and letting things happen on their own. A lot of time, just having another adult there is going to inhibit whatever would happen naturally. And don't forget about things that may not be taught per se to most people. Like I call them hidden curriculum items. You might have to teach them that when you're on the sideline of a soccer game, you cheer for your team. Things like that may need to be taught directly. When you're looking at different rec and leisure activities to participate, I always suggest that you allow your child choices and help them to look at what are their interests and give them exposure to a lot of different variety of activities. And then think beforehand, what are the skills that you're going to need to participate? And some of those skills you may be able to work on beforehand. Some other things to think about: what do they like to do and dislike to do? If you know that your child does not like being in a certain setting, you might want to look at rec and leisure activities that are not in that setting. So what motivates him or her? Again, what are the goals? Is it socialization? Is it because you want them to develop a hobby to use in their downtime? Or is it because you want them to strengthen a skill they have or to develop a skill? Another thing to consider is if your child has any behavior or other challenges that might keep him from participating in certain activities, and how much assistance will they need? Do they need one-on-one support? If it's a group activity, will they be able to participate in a group, or do we need to start with a different type of rec leisure setting first? Some different strategies for teaching skills. When I talk about this, I always want to direct people back to thinking about what typically works when your child is learning something. Do they do well with visuals? Do they do well with a list or a schedule of the routine? Do they do well by watching a video of someone demonstrating something or having a peer demonstrate something? So these are all the strategies you would want to use for teaching skills also. So, and we will give you and show you some examples of that in a minute. Another thing that's important about Rec and Leisure is promoting leisure at home. And my big question here is, are you modeling participating in a variety of leisure activities yourself? And my little note there is get off the phone. I am convicted here and I spend way too much time on my phone. And the thing to think about is what am I modeling to my kids? Now, I spend too much time on my phone, but they also see me doing my hobbies. They see me reading. They see me gardening. They see me working on my business. They see me going to work out. But I know that a lot of folks in our world now are very connected to the electronics, and a lot of our children want to be on their iPad or their computer. That might be their go to activity. So I think for promoting leisure at home, we have to learn to set limits and be a good model. And that can be really hard for some of our guys and gals. Some ways you can promote leisure at home. There's all kinds of activities, board games. This is just a list, but there's lots more. There are interactive games where they could get their, electronics fixed, but you're doing interactive things together as a family. Jackbox is something that you can check into. You might have virtual activities. I think I made this slides initially during COVID. And a lot of people were doing virtual gatherings with extended family and friends, but that's still something that is fun to do now. You might want to read together or do movie nights or have a picnic, inside or out. Something I really value is doing service together and volunteering. And that is not only what I would call rec and leisure, because hopefully it's enjoyable, but it's also something that's going to work on vocational skills and social skills and communication and all those wonderful things. Spending time outside, whether it be, walking or going to the park or bike riding or swimming. And another example is cooking together. So those are some ideas for promoting leisure at home. Here are some examples of some tools that you can use. At that top, we have a leisure schedule, and that might be a schedule that you have let your child choose certain activities, or you could choose them, and they have to do them in order. And as you know, like iPad might be the most favorite thing, but they have to do 2 other activities before the iPad. And then at the end, they get to chill out. So that's just an example of a leisure schedule. Many of our students and our family members benefit from First Then. Okay, I know you want iPad, but first we're going to do coloring. I really like this leisure choice board. The leisure choice board has all these different activities that you can put on there with Velcro. And you can even put some of the activities more than once. But once an activity is used, it goes away. And if there's no more icons on there for that activity is finished for the day. So that gives them the ability to be able to try all these different things and not, just be focusing on iPad, or whatever the choices that they want. So you definitely wouldn't put anything on there you're not okay with them doing. But I think having a leisure choice board is a great tool. And those polyspot activities, that's something that I've learned about through our adaptive PE teachers. And those are just little visual tools that you can use to set boundaries or teach the steps to something, whether it be, taekwondo or a dance and that kind of thing. So those are examples of some tools and some visuals that you might benefit from. Some other examples that I found that I think are really cool are some things that you can find online. This first one is called Exercise Buddy, and you can do a free trial and then you subscribe to it. But what it is a app where you can put it on your iPad or computer, and it can do things from modeling different skills. Let's see. So it does all different kinds of things, and you can customize it, and it will take data on how your child is progressing on different skills. They use both photographs and cartoon figures, which sometimes appeal more to our kiddos. So I think that's a really neat app that you might want to check into. The next one, I won't click on it. You can click on it when we send you the slides out if you like, but it's just a Just Dance video. So I don't know if you have ever heard of Just Dance, but they demonstrate different dances. And my point here is that you can do or find anything on YouTube. My daughters both knit and crochet and do a lot of other things, and they learn everything from YouTube. So don't forget about the power of YouTube. You can also just do your own thing. So this is a very short clip I'm going to show you of something that I made with my brother during COVID to try to get him up and moving. Let's see. My dog is participating.
Julia, I can just still see your slides. I don't see the video.
Did you see the Just Buddy thing? The other one?
No.
No, I did not.
Well, I'm not going to. Okay. You see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys get a chance, because I know we don't have time, go into these links on the slides that you get out, and they give you some different examples. And that one was a funny video of me exercising with my brother, and I made him stay active for 30 minutes, and we just went on and on and on, and we had his favorite music on. And so there's just ways that you can be creative and do your own thing. And this last link is from Autism Speaks, and they have activity after activity after activity, everything from crafts and rec and leisure and different, sports information and all these different things that you can access. And I'm sure there's lots of other great resources like this online to help you out, but these are some that I think are really good. So sorry about the AV. Okay, so now my what I really wanted to spend a little bit of time telling you about in our last few minutes is this is a special needs recreation and camp listing that I created about 8 years ago, and I created it because I couldn't find anything that was current and didn't have like all broken links and out of date information. And what it is, it's a page that I update every year. My announcements just went on. I'm hoping you're not going to hear them. And that they list all these different recreational activities, lessons, there's camps. There's mainly a focus on the North Texas area, except for the overnight camps. We have them from all over Texas and a little bit beyond, but it's going to have all the information that you would need. So I'm hoping that y'all will be able to see this when I click on it. Do y'all see that?
I don't. I only still see the slide. There it is.
Okay, yay. Okay, so this is the listing that I was talking about. It's very large. It has about 185 or so entries on it. So it's not anything that you would want to print. If you did, it would be so tiny you'd have to use a microscope. But you can see that I have listed different programs, a description of the program, who is served. Is it certain disabilities or certain ages? Where are they located? Phone number, contact information. And then in the far right column, I put notes. So what I do is I update it every year around spring break. So if they have information about summer programs, I put that in there. But if they don't have it in there, you can still go to their website and keep an eye out for that. But it'll have the information about the summer camps, if there's any scholarships, that kind of thing. And if you look at the top, it's color coded. So if it's day camps that you're looking for, you would look for that color. If it's something disability specific, if it's something that you want that involves the family or siblings, you would look for that color. Performing arts, social skills, there's all these different colors that you can use. So you can look down here that some of these activities involve several different things, like Beyond Karate here. They have day camps in the summer. They are, I would consider them fitness and recreation, but they also do some different things that involve social skills and or language. So I have heard from others that this has been very useful in helping them plan. Some different things to think about is that if you have any that you would like to be included on that, to let me know. My information is at the top. You could also let me know if you see something that isn't correct or needs to be updated. Unfortunately, we've had to take things off because programs haven't made it. Unfortunately, after COVID, a lot of different programs didn't make it. Let's see. Can y'all see the slides again?
Yep.
Okay, great. So please use this listing. You are welcome to share with anyone at any time. And I will, it's kind of my goal is to keep that up every year. And I've posted all the ones that had summer stuff on it as of like last week, but I'm going to be checking again in the near future. But just to tell you a few little examples of the different areas that I really like and recommend, or I know a lot of families have participated in, under creative and performing arts, star catchers, I belong at this adaptive dance through Jasmine's. There's art camps through the museum, and then there's like sound starts, which is like music therapy. So those are just some examples of those. There's For athletics, there's everything from tennis to cheerleading to water sports. And then we know that Special Olympics and Miracle League have a lot of different sports. There's different fitness organizations and activities. You know, you can learn to ride a bike or swim. Adaptive recreation, park and rec departments have a lot of options. I think Plano has one of the best as far as how many different things they offer. There's Powered to Move. Special Strong is individualized fitness and it's also franchised now. So they're in different areas of Texas. And then, of course, adaptive swimming lessons I'm huge about because unfortunately, you hear way too many stories in the news about individuals that did not know how to swim and had very unfortunate happenings. So social opportunities, here's some different examples of those. I love the adult dances that some of the parks and recs have. Friendship Circle is in Dallas and they offer some really cool things. We've got our peer inclusion programs, United Through Hope, Adaptive Community Experience or ACE. They get together every month at different locations and do game nights and do some other social things. I list all the different sensory friendly activities. More and more places are doing those, but they usually do them at certain times of the day and certain times of the month. Here's some examples of those. Day camps. And I will tell you, just a reminder that a lot of these places book up very quickly. So if you're interested in doing some of these over the summer, you would want to get in as soon as they open up. For example, Heroes Camp. They usually open up their registration around March 1st, and people will set their alarm and get up at dawn to sign up for those. So you have to really be on the ball for some of these. Here's a list of overnight camps that are all over Texas and a little bit beyond. I've had students that have had great experiences at overnight camps that go back every year, and they just grow and mature a lot through that. And of course, it also gives those families that needed break also. There are disability specific camps for everything from Tourette syndrome to Down syndrome to diabetes, medical. There's all these different disability specific camps. We've got our inclusive playgrounds. And then there's even some fun miscellaneous activities like Challenge Air, where you would actually go in the air and help a pilot to pilot an airplane. You've got therapeutic horseback riding, and there's just a lot of really cool different activities that you may not think of that are on that list. Again, some helpful hints that registering early, they book up, and it doesn't hurt to ask a program if they can accommodate your child, but be upfront about their challenges and any concern. And then just like for anyone, you would want to try an activity several times before making a decision about whether it's a good fit or not. Check into possible scholarships. Sometimes they have those. And just to make sure you're having fun. They may not know they're having fun right away, but hopefully if you try an activity several times, they will have fun. So that is all I have there. I hope that this has been beneficial to you. And if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to ask now or reach out to me. And I hope that you guys have a great, fun summer with your families.
Julia, that was such excellent information. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know we have a couple of wrap up things to do before we finish, but while we are talking about those things, I am going to ask Ashton to launch a poll. We do want to hear from everyone that was here today and get your feedback on today's presentation. While that is being launched and while you are answering those questions, I am going to plug just a couple of other events that we have coming up. On April 23rd, SpedTechs and Partners Resource Network, we are hosting a statewide webinar at 12:15 p.m. This is navigating adulthood transportation planning for students with disabilities. We will have the transition coordinator from the Texas Education Agency joining us for that webinar to discuss some of those transportation options for our kiddos as they are growing up. Also, our May family webinar is going to be featuring our own Jim Wright, and he is going to be talking about a parent's perspective on Medicaid waiver lists. And so I know that's another topic that we get asked about a lot. We're so happy that he is willing to talk with us about that topic. And so that will be happening on May 7th at 12 o'clock p.m. for English, 1 o'clock p.m. for Spanish. So I have linked both of those flyers for you also in the chat. Again, I will send an email that has links to Julia's slides today. We'll also give you the location of where the recording will be, and I will include links to both of these events as well. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And Julia, thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.